Welcome to another edition of Throwing Down Some Heavy Light. I am A'Jamal Byndon, your host and chairman of the board of MORE, which stands for Movement Omaha for Race Equity. We have Yvor Stoakley, who is one of the members of this committee that is working on some issues dealing with that, and Amanda Miss Drane, and they are involved coordinating in community events to help us in Omaha to deal with some of these issues. They've been working on racial healing and reconciliation and dealing with trauma in our communities. Moreover, we must acknowledge that there are a lot of ways we can help deal with transformation of some of these causes. And again, we as a society experience trauma in so many different ways. This is an event coming up in some time within the next couple of weeks. It's titled A Midwest Gathering, Healing from a Racial Trauma and Connecting to Our Human Family. And it's planned for August the 11th. It's going to be at the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation, and we want the community to be involved in these kind of activities. So we're very excited to have them come and talk more about that and to share about what they're working on in some of the sessions. And also, we want to prepare ourselves for one of the sessions that we're going to be kind of help co-sponsor more so is a session that deals with inner work on healing. And I think that starts around 11:30. So we're going to have some input in that. But again, I want to invite them to kind of basically share a little bit more about themselves. In terms of Mrs. Drane, and also you can tell a little bit about who you are and make sure we get a little bit more feedback to the audience who you are.
Okay. Thank you so much, A'Jamal. And first, just want to thank you for having us to join you. I serve as board president of a 501c3 nonprofit, AALR, which stands for Asserting Achievement, Literacy, and Resiliency. And we've been around for about 20 years, I think about the same time as your organization. In 2021, in November, the board of directors of AALR approved a new initiative called Ubuntu House. And that initiative is to help people of all ethnic, racial backgrounds to better understand, to become aware of, to learn about, and act on the harm done by racial trauma. And as I've talked to people, some people don't even know how to define racial trauma and what it is. It's something that we've been feeling for centuries, but we didn't know how to define it as well as we do today. But professionally, I work as a project manager with the United Methodist Church. And both my role as board president of AALR and working in the faith community, I feel has really prepared me to work with clergy and laity and people outside of the faith community, really on a centrality of the oneness of humanity. Mm-hmm. And I'll see if Ivor wants to share some things.
Ivor, share a little bit more.
Thank you, A'Jamal, for having us today. Yeah, I am a retired attorney, and I live just outside of Chicago in Oak Brook, Illinois. I met Amania through an organization called Together is Better Alliance, for whom we both worked on a variety of different social justice projects over the last several years. One of them was providing virtual tours of museums in Montgomery, Alabama, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Chicago that are focused on African-American history. Another one we've done recently is a book discussion series focused on the 1619 Project, a New Origin story that was edited by Professor Nicole Hannah-Jones. Currently, I'm active with an organization called Pizza and Social Justice that's based here in the Chicago suburbs. So that's a little bit about my background.
Amania and Yvor, one of the things I want to ask you is why are you coming to Omaha and why is this work important for us here in Omaha, Nebraska, from your vantage point?
Sure. Well, Amania and I visited Omaha twice last year. Once we were just passing through on a road trip to Arizona, but then we came back again in November of last year in connection with the project that Amania talked about, Ubuntu House. Mm-hmm. Focuses on healing from racial trauma. So on our November trip, we met with community leaders there in Omaha and in Bellevue and in Macy, Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And we were first attracted to Omaha because it was the birthplace or is the birthplace of Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. And we are interested in getting a deeper understanding of Northeast Nebraska and its various racial and ethnic communities and their history as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, the other thing that hit me is that I know that I saw the agenda, the preliminary agenda that you have drafted, and I guess it looks at a lot of aspects and so on. But from your vantage point, can y'all share with us, or particularly our viewing audience, what are some key aspects of this agenda, and also what you want to bring to attention to our audience that will drive us to participate in this wonderful event?
And if I can just jump in very quickly before we get to that question, A'Jamal, is everything Yvor said is on point. And I just wanted to add that this travel to Nebraska has been successful because early in 2022, I had the pleasure of being introduced to Dr. Asit Goswami.
Mm-hmm.
And he practiced medicine in Omaha, Nebraska area. And just after one brief Zoom call, he volunteered to be our contact.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of him that when we returned in November, that we were able to meet people in the indigenous community, in other communities, white people who were aligning with us to do this work. And so we do owe that initial introduction to Dr. Goswami, and just delighted that your community has been so welcoming to us to partner with.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, as we've been working on this Ubuntu House project, A'Jamal, we have visited a number of communities in the Midwest, from Kansas City to Kalamazoo, Michigan, St. Louis, Twin Cities, several places here in Northern Illinois. And all of these cities have histories that interface with racial trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So our objective is to explore the ways in which we can foster healing from that trauma for people of all backgrounds. You know, we're still early actually in the learning process in this, you know, it's a journey, but Omaha is one of the communities that we found particularly interesting. As you know, I'm sure very well, it has, you know, a long history around racial trauma, from lynching through segregation. It has members of indigenous tribal nations, both in the city and within a few hours drive of the city. And we've learned it also has Hispanic and Mayan communities that are there as well. And of course, we know there are European heritage people in neighborhoods in Omaha as well. So our program on Friday seeks to bring members of all of these communities together to learn from one another and to explore ways to strengthen our connections. And the program will include looking at, as you mentioned, our inner work that each of us has to do to heal, and the collective work that must be done as a community at the community level. And we'll also try to make space for focusing on our human connection to the land and the physical environment as well.
Good. You know, I kind of asked you a little bit directly about some of the content, but some people are also interested in the facilitators. In other words, who's going to be in the room, who's the expertise. I sometimes will go to an event based upon the qualification of somebody that I know. And so I'm kind of wondering if you can do some name dropping and share with us who are the individuals who work with the Midwest Gathering.
Sure, I'll take.
I noticed you smile when I said name dropping. Okay, who's going to be in the room? So and so's in the house, as they say.
Yeah. Well, Yvor and I, we're both going to present toward the end of the day on Friday, leading the closing session around the importance of community. And we're going to probably approach it from, you know, just a Kwanzaa perspective of the importance of community, but bring in other people of different ethnic and racial backgrounds. But we are delighted to have Sarinka Griffin, who is on your board, A'Jamal. She's a social worker. She teaches there at a university in Omaha, and she's going to lead us in a healing circle to talk about some things. But prior to Sarinka sharing, one of the gentlemen that we met when we visited Kansas City, his name is Cecil Watry. And we were just so impressed when we visited Kansas City and meeting him. He's the founder of the Kansas City Black Mental Health Initiative. He has a background in psychology. He teaches in Kansas City. He works as has a private clinical counseling practice in Kansas City. And we have just been so impressed to work with him and learn from him. So he's going to be presenting on Friday also. And then we have a teacher in Omaha, Andrew Hilmer. On Saturday, we're going to be in Macy and visiting the Omaha Nation. So we plan to visit with various people there. Ricardo Ariza, who many people know because of his background. He used to be director of multicultural affairs at one of the universities there.
Creighton University.
At Creighton. Thank you. And I will throw out a name, Dewan Hayes, because Dewan is a younger person who is from Omaha, who now lives in Chicago, but he's been really effective in bringing younger voices to the circle. So we're really excited about having Dewan, who has been on the planning committee almost from the very beginning. Once he found out, he's been very dedicated and participative in the work that we're doing.
Amania, one of the questions that hit me, and I was just thinking as you were talking, is I often ask a question, I think you may have heard me say it. What are the demographics? In other words, someone is always looking at when you do an event, how do we measure the outcomes? When I walk away from an event, are we going to be healed? How do you determine, just from maybe empirical or even a social level, when you do this event? What are the things you can be looking at?
Yeah, that's a good question, A'Jamal. I mean, healing from racial trauma, or any trauma, actually is a process. So Friday's event will mostly be focused on the first stage of that process in terms of building awareness. And so we have, as we've mentioned, several presenters who have the professional or training background to bring to that. But it'll also depend a lot on who's around the table and the ways in which we can connect with one another and share the knowledge that each of us has about trauma and about our perspective on what it's going to take in order to heal. So those are the key things that I would say we will be looking at to build on as we go forward.
What the reason I threw it out is that oftentimes I've seen organizations, people do events, and they can be wonderful events, but they don't oftentimes capture the feelings of the feedback. We walk away with this euphoria, oh, it was a great whatever, but I think sometimes when you start to ask for additional funding or follow-up, what do we learn from that? And how do we build upon the building blocks of what people have taught us beforehand? So sometimes we're not always forthcoming, and I really like to push some kind of a survey or evaluation, even if it's like you show pictures as they do in your hospital. What is the level of the pain or whatever? Let me switch up just a little bit, and I want to ask, many people are concerned in our community about the hostile environment. Again, there's a lot of racial animosity that happens in our cities. We hear the political pundits saying things and shouting and that and so on. And again, we live with this concept of critical race theories. How do you approach such a sensitive topic, such as racial trauma, without further becoming preaching, judgmental, about your expectations? Because it is a sensitive topic considering the historical issues in our society. So how do you guys do that?
Well, that's a really good question. I'll take a stab at it. Yeah, sometimes we do tend to be preachy. But what I would say is, in the planning of this gathering, and we're calling it a gathering because as we have been meeting monthly with our brothers and sisters in Omaha, and in Kansas City and talking about this, we talked about where does spirituality fit into this space. And what we said is that the consensus was that we are all spiritual beings, but we live that out in different ways. Sometimes it's just connected to nature. Sometimes it is, this institutional religion. And sometimes it's just a faith and a love for humanity. So we don't preach our beliefs as much as we try to live them out. And we believe in the oneness of humanity. We believe in truth telling also, that telling the truth does not diminish the love that we have for this country. As a matter of fact, we feel like you can have a greater appreciation when you understand the history of what has happened, and you're able to say and learn from that so that you don't repeat it. So we have a lot of appreciation for truth telling, and sometimes some feelings, quite frankly, A'Jamal, sometimes feelings may be hurt a little bit, but that's how you grow.
Yeah,
You grow through understanding and learning.
very good.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
One additional thing I would add to that, I would say, I think we all have to come to the table with a little bit of humility.
Mhm.
I know that any one of us, both individually and as communities, can point to the things that we have suffered and perhaps even continue to suffer. But at the same time, I think we have to, be a little bit humble in terms of trying to understand each other, across these various divides, at least historical divides, and figure out ways in which we can help one another to heal together. So I think that's the one additional thing I would add to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree.
this event is scheduled, within a week or so, and I know that you've been working on it. What kind of numbers are you expecting, or do you have some kind of limit? And also remind us where this event's going to be held at, and can someone sign up or just walk in to participate in this event?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're expecting maybe between up to 20 to 25 or 30 people. That's kind of what we're targeting. And we're trying to keep it at a level in which we can all of those who are there and who are participating can really get as fully engaged as possible in the conversation, because we think that would probably make it more effective. We do ask that anyone who's coming, even though there's no charge, we do ask that anyone who's coming RSVP in advance so that we can have a sense. We will be providing on Friday, our plan is to provide a complimentary lunch. And so it really is helpful and important for us to have a sense as to who to expect. And there's an email address, I'll give it here, and perhaps we can provide it in text as well, that you can send an email to if you want to attend. And that address is NIA Enterprises1@comcast.net. So I'll spell that out. It's NIAENTERPRISES number 1 @comcast.
Froze up a bit. Yeah. So we'll
Okay. I can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, I can continue at NIA Enterprises, the number 1 @comcast.net. And the phone number is 630-886-7469.
Good. And we'll also post it.
Yeah, and we'll be at the Malcolm X
Memorial Foundation.
Exactly.
you.
We're going to be at the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation, 3448 Evans Street in Omaha on Friday.
Good.
Yeah, and if people can, ideally, if they can reach out to us to RSVP by Friday of this weekend or Saturday at the worst, that would be great in terms of our planning. That would really be a big help for us. But in either case, if people are interested, just have them reach out to us and we can figure out the situation when they do.
Excellent. Now, Amania and Yvor, I would ask you, you have other events planned for Omaha? I know this event has been forthcoming for a number of months. Or after this, is there some kind of a follow-up or other events you have planned in our community?
Nothing is planned as of yet. We will be, of course, traveling, like I said, to Macy on Saturday, August 12th, and we hope that people, if they're interested in attending that, will get in touch with us about that. And then we're going to learn. When we went to Omaha in November of last year, we did not plan to return, but we got there and we built relationships, and we valued those relationships so much. And just like we met you through the contacts, and we met Dewan and many others. And so have car, have plane, have train, we'll travel. Yvor and I and some of the people that we've worked with and who have traveled with us, we believe in relationship, that's that's key to the work that we do. So we would love to work with your organization more, A'Jamal, and hopefully there will be an opportunity for us to return.
Yeah. Well, folks, I really enjoyed this information. And obviously, we're going to share this with our viewing audience as we move forward. But normally we close off the show. We ask our guests, do you have any closing comments for our listening audience? Either one of you or both.
I'll let Ivor speak also, but mine is, please join us. Send us an email to NIA Enterprises #1@comcast.net, or call 630-886-7469. Let us know if you'd like to join us on Friday at the Malcolm X Foundation Center on August 11th, or on Saturday as we go to the Omaha Nation in Macy and spend the day there. And we have a lot of wonderful things planned that really connect to nature and to people that Ivor was talking about earlier. But Ivor, anything you want to say?
Not really much to add. I mean, we are excited about coming back to Omaha, and we're looking forward to it. And we would love to meet additional people who want to come to the program on Friday or to Saturday, and that would be a great opportunity for us to start to get to know you.
Yvor and Amania, it's been a pleasure having you on here talking about these important events that you're working on, and of course, an opportunity to throw out some heavy light to help our community and help us to deal with the important issue of racial trauma. So really appreciate you being here, and hopefully get a chance to do some other interviews and talk more about some of these topics. But thank you very much.
Thank you for the
A'Jamal.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Throwing Down Some Heavy Light, and as we're always in our programs, may the force be with you.